Warning! This episode contains graphic language, even more discussions of Eragon needing a sword, zombie-adjacent soldiers, and as always, teen angst. Also, there will be spoilers for chapters 20 through 24 of Brisingr, Book 3 of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who would also scoff at the idea that I could free myself from the yoke of my oppressor by just changing. Okay, Eragon, cool. Great idea.
And I'm Jacqui, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where the weddings are the perfect balance of sentimental and fun as hell, but only because they're hot on the heels of horrific battles.
More people just need to do that to have good weddings.
I mean, I am really taking notes. As a wedding planner, I really am thinking I'm going to start advising my clients. Just have a really terrible fight.
Have a war before.
Yeah, have a wall.
Well, if you'd like to support us on... have a wall. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the show notes. If you can or just don't want to, we totally understand that. And just ask that you please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you get your podcasts.
Yes, and as always, visit us at isthisjustfantasypod.com, a very hip and cool website where you can watch all of our episodes as videos if you're into that kind of thing. We also post goofy little clips of said videos on our social media at Just Fantasy Pod on Instagram and at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok. And before we cut the cake and pop the champagne for this wedding, Dane, I want to thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to quickly review our surprise party from our last episode.
Yeah.
Christopher Paolini has really been in a festive mood lately. I'm about it. So we opened last time on Eragon and Arya's return to the Varden and heartwarming reunion with Saphira, which was the first of several actually nice moments we had in the last set of chapters.
Yes.
Eragon meets Elf Team 12 or the Dreamy Dozen. Do we have a confirmation
We're
on
workshopping.
that?
We're workshopping.
Okay. But after meeting his magic sex panther bodyguard, got me. Eragon's treated to a signature Queen President rousing speech and coerced into making his own sweet but infinitely more bumbling stab at public address. And in the VIP-only conference that follows, Eragon recounts the entire first quarter of this book, and I really need some pointers from his recap playbook because I could learn a thing or two. And Niswada and Oren get more than a little tense, like asserting authority against each other.
Yes.
But you already know our Queen President manages to pull rank on Serta's king while still maintaining her grace and composure. More pointers I could use. And after the meeting, Niswada invites Eragon to a dinner that night, and surprise, the actual world's best boss, get this bitch a mug, has planned Eragon a surprise party with everyone from Carvajal and his assorted friends from the Varden. And it is the single most wholesome scene in this entire series to date. As the party winds down, Roran asks Eragon to officiate his wedding, revealing that Katrina's pregnant, and Eragon apparently doesn't remember his public speaking debacle mere hours ago because he agrees. He's like, yeah, I could do that. I'd be great at that.
Obviously, you could do that.
And the next day, Eragon has his first day off. Debatable if he's still attending a work function that morning. Debatable specifically between you and I.
Yes.
Who debated it.
No one else is arguing about this.
Yes.
But it was a long night last night.
But removing curses from cursed witch babies didn't come up in the employee handbook, so we do not know how to classify it. Work function or social function.
Well, business casual was worn, so that's what we do know.
And when the curse breaking gets underway, Queen President starts off by pleading with Elva to keep her powers for the good of the wall, but the witch baby refuses, giving us a long and heartbreaking speech about the toll her condition takes on her. So it's up to Eragon to attempt the painstaking and imprecise art of magic reversal, and it kind of works. Elva can still feel people's pain and know their hurts and fears, but she's no longer compelled to help them. And apparently this is good enough for her. Her first act is to use her emotional wound senses to give Eragon the read of a lifetime to stop him from trying again to remove her powers. Then she just gallivants off into the distance, leaving everyone unsettled and Angela feeling a tad salty. But Eragon doesn't let some botched magic, a soul-crushing rant, and a skull-pounding slap get in the way of his Sunday reset, so he heads off to finish his day of errands. And I really have to respect his efficiency game. He starts by calling 3 balls of pure gold from the earth, using 1 to pay Carval's tanner for the hides he took to make Saphira's first saddle, and then he meets with our favorite couple on the rocks, Joan and Helen, to share more specifics about Brom's death with his old friend. In their nice little afternoon tea sesh, Eragon learns more about both of his parents, but he struggles to believe that Selena was as evil as Jode is painting her. That's mostly just because he already knows Morzan was a monumental asshole.
Yes.
And on his debt repayment tour of the camp, Eragon gives Helen a chance to secure a war profiteering monopoly with another of the balls of gold to thank them for the risk they took to help the Barden.
Yes, Helen's rich again.
Yes, and I will be damned if we didn't wrap up last time on a hopeful note for Jode and Helen's marriage.
They really are, like, I'm rooting for them.
Me too. A series first for them. Yeah. Just hopeful for their future. But never forget, Dane, we had the huge cliffhanger last time of one more errand for Eragon to do. What could it be?
Oh, man, I wonder. Going into this episode, I was thinking about it. This part of the book for me is always funny because, Brisingr does feel a little different than the other series books.
Yeah.
Even the next book. And this one does feel a little bit like we are on his Sunday reset.
Yes.
And so coming into this series of chapters, I was like, okay, so we're just doing this is an errand book.
Yes. Yes, he has shit to do, Dane. I don't know if you've heard, but he needs a sword.
Yeah, well let's just get right into it.
You're welcome for that lob up for you to hit out the park, Dane.
Really solid. Chapter 20, I need a sword, and if you're drinking along at home, that means you have to do a shot because we decided it's a chapter title.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So every time it's mentioned, a drink. When it's a chapter title, as now, either a whole shot or finish your drink.
Yes, and please drink responsibly. Eragon, protected by Elf Team 12, starts this week by going on a shopping spree.
Oh my god, it's everyone's favorite D&D session.
Okay, well that really depends on the group and the DM. Is this a magic shop on every corner type of world, or are we deep into medieval realism?
Oh no.
Because it matters to the overall shopping experience. You can either find rope or nails or wands.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the book. Eragon makes a beeline for the man in the center of the controlled chaos that is the armory of the Varden.
Yes.
Frederick the Weapons Master. Just a side note, I love Paulini's description of Frederick with his hairy oxhide armor and just the biggest sword across his back.
Yes.
He's just a big lovable barbarian of a man, and he's always stuck out to me for some reason.
He does seem fun. He's fun to read.
Yeah, fan casting for me, him as Mark Addy.
Oh.
The dude who played Robert Baratheon in the Game of Thrones.
I mean, of course, foundationally.
Yeah.
The Dude in A Knight's Tale
is
what you mean. A masterpiece also of modern cinema.
A range of acting, the Full Monty. I think he's in the Full Monty.
Oh my God, you're totally right. A British treasure, Mark Addy. Good for that guy.
That guy's great. Well, Eragon recruits Frederick on his hunt for the perfect sword. Oh. Because, he needs a sword. Jax, I'm sorry to think, did you know that Eragon needs a sword?
Dane, I've heard it 1, 2, or 7 times that might be the case, but I guess I didn't really internalize it until just now. Thanks for the hot tip.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What would I do without you?
Yeah, this week's deep dive, a sword. I'm just kidding. Frederick is very honored to be consulted on choosing a writer's sword and sees this as the pinnacle of his life's work.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it is nice. He asks Eragon about how he fights and talks about his needs on the field of battle. Frederick also goes on about weapons, pokes a little fun at Eragon, discusses Zarak's reviews, the different kinds of blades he has, wonders if Eragon needs dwarven craftsmanship, and generally just goes on at length about the need for a weapon. It's a lot. And it's clear that Frederick loves weapons, but more so at this point as a reader that Paolini loves all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cracks me up reading this. He clearly spoke with some experts and went to a sword con or something.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he's got a blacksmithing hobby cooking up.
I think he
behind
does.
the scenes. Yeah.
We learn there are some problems for Eragon, though, in this story. It's not as cut and dry as you think.
Okay.
Plebes. A human blade will weigh more than an elven one, which Eragon is used to, which would mess up his flow.
right.
And this is why Roran's bigger than you, Eragon. Eat that protein.
Oh my God.
Maybe beans. Make those gains, bro. Anyway, we're going on learning about all the different things Eragon needs out of his weapon. And even for this podcast, it might be too in-depth. I will say the biggest issue is that Eragon's sword training is to block with his... Like, he blocks sword edge to sword edge.
Okay.
Right, which you know is
when
super
he
bad.
crosses swords.
Yeah, which is super...
Only the edges touch.
Only the edges touch when he crosses swords.
Not the tips.
Not the tips.
Okay.
I think it's us. We're the ones doing this.
Yes.
But as you know, that's super bad, Jacqui.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Because that would break an ordinary blade.
Oh, yes. That
Duh.
makes perfect sense.
Duh. Well, Eragon says he can enchant a blade to make it not break, which was my first jump and thought. But once the wards are go through, it would most likely just shatter.
Yeah, it's like a
blade.
limited number of uses on the words, right? So that they
Yeah.
don't kill you
Yes.
with magic energy
With
loss.
magic energy.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a real problem for Eragon. He's too strong a boy. And I'll remind you all of last episode's hater segment and say that this should probably be something Eragon can fix pretty easily because he's a weapons master, but alas, this is insurmountable.
Okay.
Yeah. Frederick comes up with two solutions. First, and this always makes me laugh after their complicated sword talk for a while that we've
Yeah.
heard about, he comes up with a big mace.
He's like, hot tip, don't use a fucking sword.
Yeah, he's like, sounds like what you need is not a sword.
It's a club.
Yeah, he's like, how about a spiked club?
Yes.
Yeah. His reasoning is that it's basically damage proof. Eragon is less than enthusiastic
He's not
about
wrong.
it. Yeah, I do love it. He's like, but the brother cousins are just meant to break things.
I think that in this book full of fun, like, posthumous Garrow advice, maybe
Yeah.
some of that patented father-uncle wisdom included Hulk smash.
Yes, there is.
Maybe that survive. I think Eragon should get into it.
Yeah,
is all I'm saying.
Okay, I want to know about the like process of bean farming and rutabaga farming. Is there a lot of smashing involved?
There must be, because remember Roran when he was training with the with the soldiers when he was out getting swole a couple
like-
episodes ago? He's
Yeah.
like, nothing compared to a summer beet harvest. This is child's play.
What Eragon needs is a nunchuck, but on the ends are rutabagas. He's just
I, magical rider of old, will destroy you with my enchanted rutabagas.
Anyway.
I can't imagine why not.
The second solution that is presented is a falchion. And for those of you who aren't D&D nerds and just don't know immediately what that is, it's a thick and curved blade it's pretty hefty. And Frederick also has one of Dwarven make. So it's
Okay.
extra tough and extra beefy, and it's been forged by the Threckensdahl method,
Oh.
of course.
Yes, makes perfect sense. I will say, on the topic of falchions, just writ large, it is one of the things that shows a passage of time for me between rereads, because as a teen reading this book,
No idea.
zero conceivable idea what a falchion is. But now, as an adult woman, I'm like, I know exactly what that is. And I don't really know what that says about me and my growth, but I bet it's a good
It
thing.
means you've leveled up as a nerd.
I bet it's a good thing.
Ba, ba, ba. All right. Anyway, well, obviously, like for various reasons that Paolini explains, and I am not going to, the Threckensdahl method means that just a few minor changes when the falchion in his form, Eragon will not be blocking edge to edge.
Oh, great.
Yes. And so this whole scene just shows Frederick's expertise and also the apparent only solution unless Eragon changes his fighting style completely. Eragon tries the falchion out. He gets fancy with it. He does, of course, love swords. It's not magic or a rider's blade, but it's about as good as you get for mortal men.
Okay.
But when Eragon basically calls the falchion a large skinning knife, Frederick tells Eragon, quote, pay no heed if your enemies laugh. They will not be able to once you lop off their heads. So it's a comical blade and everyone thinks so. No one
Frederick,
thinks this is
though.
cool.
He's like, fuck him.
He's like, fuck him, kill him.
Yeah.
Frederick then talks about the curse of the named blade. Essentially, every great warrior who does something amazing in battle gets their sword named by their men, the bards, or themselves. And from that point on, it ruins morale if that hero doesn't bring that blade. It becomes part of them. So there's a little room for changing it up. And I
Okay.
don't think any of this is really true to real life history, but it
Well,
is fun.
yeah.
You know? And what should we name Roran's hammer?
Oh.
Basically something like on theme, like the Bean Buster or the Hulky Hammer, something like that.
I hate Beanbuster more than you could possibly imagine, Dane.
Oh, there's Roran's strong hammer and his Bean Buster.
I mean, I guess I thought it was already built in. Strong hammer.
That's his name.
I guess if that's already Roran's name, he and his hammer are going to have, like, they're going to end up in a lot of who's on first situations, but it can't be Beanbuster. I will absolutely leave this podcast. That is a red line in the sand for me.
So why did you guys stop doing it? Well, it was a bean busting problem. It was Dane's a real bean buster.
I have to go.
All right, finally, just to give a full picture of Frederick's personality, I want to point out that Frederick predicts that no amount of magic will end this war. No. That everyone, even magical dragon riders with their ability to conjure spells, will need a blade.
This is so fantasy novel. Very reminiscent of Wheel of Time to me. I'm just like,
okay,
you're a wizard.
Yeah.
Do wizard shit.
Stuff. And that the only thing that will put down old gal will be a sword.
Right.
We're going to see, bud.
Great.
I love this guy. He's just a bloodthirsty bro who loves a good fight.
Yeah, Frederick.
This is what I imagine the Chads of the Varden are like. And when he adds his little dashes of Urgle racism to the mix, he's just living up to all the bad bro stereotypes in this oddly funny
And
character.
I know that hits you hard as someone who likes to use the word bro as a positive and an endearment a lot.
Yeah, it's not great. Finally, Eragon has to take lessons on how to sharpen and care for his blade, which I find hilarious.
Yes.
All the soldiers walking by are like, did you see the rider learning what we all learned on our first day at boot camp?
Yeah.
What a noob. When Saphira comes to pick him up from a long day at sword school, it turns out she intentionally left him longer than normal so he could get the full-length like blade maintenance class with bonus features. And I love it because it's clear Saphira did not care, but thought Eragon would bail if she showed up early.
Yes.
And so it's really nice.
I love her. She's like, stick it out, bitch.
Yeah, you got to do this. The chapter ends with a nice private flight between the two where they discuss Roran's wedding tomorrow, do some crazy aerial acrobatics that almost kill Eragon.
So fun.
Stop to have dinner with King Orin, and finally King Orin. And finally go to sleep where Eragon feels a deep sense of happiness and love.
And I think that's officially a record for the longest on-screen day in the series so far, right?
It's like almost 3 episodes, half of episode
No, I think
3?
it started back in the middle of the last episode with Eragon giving his blessings on the way to curse removal.
Okay, I thought they landed in the Varden, and then they're waiting, seeing him.
But they have the surprise party that night, and then he goes to sleep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh my god,
a quick
this
sleep.
day seems forever.
It definitely is super, super long. But that does take us to chapter 21, Unexpected Guests. This chapter opens finally on a new day. A new day dawns.
Thank God.
With Eragon doing his sun salutations before the big wedding. After an hour of Rimgar and 30 minutes of sword training, Eragon heads over to the Carvajal section of camp to hop in the line as a prep cook for Roran and Katrina's wedding. And although Elena's clearly in charge, it isn't all like, yes, chef in her kitchen. The scene is actually super idyllic with Eragon and the women kneading the dough for the bread, the children climbing on Saphira over in the sun nearby, the young men carrying some maypole-esque contraptions up to the ceremony site, Morn and Tara mixing up their best hooch for the party, so it's going to be a rager. The women on the line start making some raunchy little innuendos about the wedding night, so it's not always just us.
It's not always just us.
It embarrasses the hell out of Eragon, which is so funny, but it's a little bittersweet for him as he thinks about poor father Uncle Garrow not being there for the brother cousin wedding of the century. He consoles himself with the knowledge that Garrow would be so proud and happy for Roran.
Either that or stare intensely or say something very wise, but also somehow depressing.
I mean, yeah, those are all the things he would do, but he would be proud and happy while he did them.
Love lasts an eternity, but is
like a petrified beat.
A battle.
Yes, that would be Garrow for sure. But Eragon's really just starting to relax into the prep work and surprise, the alarm horn sounding.
Yeah.
We have a situation. So the entire camp erupts into chaos as Eragon sprints to find Saphira while gathering his elven guards with his mind magic and telling them to meet him at the edge of camp.
The Elven 12. Nope. No. I'll keep working.
Okay. I think Elf Team 12 is my current front runner, but we'll
get it. We'll get it.
Yes. I think there's something to be made out of maybe Ocean's Elf Levin and a Sex Panther, but I'm not there's something there, but I'm not there yet. We'll get it one of these days.
We'll get it.
Yes, if Sindri smiles upon us, perhaps.
May her dirty face
yes, she who molded us from the mud.
look down on us.
But back to our pre-battle chaos.
Oh, that's right. It's a war.
Yes, a wall. The mind radio transmissions are flying from Eragon, Triana, and Angela to gather all of our VIPs at the rendezvous point, and all we know is that Elva senses unimaginable pain for Eragon, the Varden, and everyone. She's barely coherent. It's ominous as fuck. Eragon stops at his tent to gear up, and as he continues on to meet up with High Command, he's dismayed, remembering that he hasn't topped up the energy stores in his belt since Hellgrind.
Nice.
I'm just like, serious bean farmer move, bud. Come on.
You have to wear a braided belt. At least make it worth wearing.
Yes. I mean, I think he's only in it for the aesthetics, and that makes me so worried for him, Dane. More worried than anything.
Yes, and it's a bedazzled braided belt. Let's be real.
The best kind. But they arrive at the top of one of the embankments on the camp's border, and it's a full-on like Avengers assemble scene. It's very fun. We like pan around essentially in the writing to Niswada on her beast of a warhorse, surrounded by the Nighthawks. Arya presumably looking hot and badass,
but also like pissed off for some reason.
Well, yes, pissed off as a given. Bloodgarm and the dozen elves coming up to surround Saphira, and I'm imagining doing the cool like Spider-Man crouch in a circle around her. King Orin galloping up with his honor guard.
His fucking horse is like rears up and he pulls on the reins.
Yes. Also, you're in it now. You get it. You're with me.
He's in a cowboy hat though because he's from Texas.
Yes, that feels right. Yeah. Well, he is the governor of Florida, so maybe he's in
a bucket hat,
an alligator skin. I don't know.
He's in like Ray-Bans and a neon like
just like spring break, a bad like Palm Beach.
But it's really cool. He rears
T-shirt,
up on his horse.
He rears up on his horse. Narheim and his armor to the teeth like best dwarven warriors, and Nargajvag with his entourage shaking the ground as they run in. It is so badass. It's very fun with the exception of Orin.
Yeah, the Varden is definitely getting cool at this point.
Yes, they're very fun. The attack is coming from the river, where 5 boats full of soldiers are pulling up and unloading, but there are fewer than 300 soldiers, so our crack team is suspecting a trap somehow. They're just running through their options for eliminating such a small force when the alarm horn blares one more time, and on the far side of the river, Eragon spots Thorn and Murtagh, and oh shit, here we go. My chapter ends there. What's going to happen?
Chapter 42, Fire in the Sky. It's on!
Yes.
Arya immediately sees a trap, and in the least surprising move, King Orin wants to be the big man and uses horsies in a charge. This appears to be...
That feels like a Florida man move. That's all I'm saying.
He's like, well, charge him.
Texas roots, Florida man.
Yeah. This appears to be a clear grab and bag situation to Arya. The troops will distract the Varden just long enough for Murtagh to grab Eragon.
Okay.
Gal might be crazy, but he's not stupid. And Eragon is just focused on making sure that Thorn and Murtagh can't get near the Varden camp to rain fire and magic, which would be like a catastrophe.
And that's just like your opinion, bro.
Our Queen President, cool as ice, listens calmly to everyone, and their battle ideas.
Yes.
She's like, everyone has ideas.
Everybody's so creative.
Exactly. Only asking if this isn't falling right into Gal's plan, separating.
Yes.
Arya,
are we just springing the trap?
Yeah, it seems like we're just doing what this trap has led us to do.
Yes.
Arya contends that the Elven strike force will be a surprise to Murtagh, so they do have an edge on Gal's trap.
So it's safe to spring the trap.
This is a total naive
I was just about
in Wheel
to
of Time
say
situation.
That. Yes, Arya's going full naive. She's like, well, the best way to to dispel a trap is to walk right into it.
Spring it. Yeah, anyway. Naswada agrees and sends Orin and his cavalry prancing.
Amazing.
With the Urgles as a backstop support.
I like that she did kind of a phased approach.
She's like, you go, and then she was like, you go help him.
You also go. Get on out there.
Yeah. And she sends more Varden troops as a third line of defense because she wants to, quote, crush them.
Ooh.
She gets dark sometimes.
Yeah.
The few remaining
I mean,
dwarves.
it's a war.
Yeah, no, I like it.
She's
I
we're
gotta
going
point
to
it out.
destroy them.
Yeah.
I like her.
The few remaining dwarfs are to provide a protective front before the Varden in the very unlikely case that this very small force gets through, like if there's a surprise.
Okay.
And when they complain, she comes down hard.
Yes.
I love her.
Well, she
She's
also,
the best.
I think, in classic Neswata fashion, she brooks no argument for sure. She's like, fuck
no.
off. I am in charge of this. I am the commander in chief. But she also is like, if anything happens, you are our best defense. She also gives them a little.
She gives them an ego boost. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm like,
She knows men well. She knows the men of her army very well. She's like, you big strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the battle starts and Eragon notices an endless sound of insane laughter coming from the clash on the ground. And dude, this is wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah, I was spooked by
It's
this
spooky,
for sure.
Yeah. And just when the tension is at its highest, Eragon and the entire High Command get a mental broadcast from one of Orin's magicians screaming in agony as they're doing their charge. And he screams, "The men won't die."
Yeah.
Which is not what you want to hear.
No, it's not ideal.
Yeah. As if things couldn't get worse, Murtagh starts to call out to Eragon, and Murtagh seems to have soured on the sword bro bond because
That's so rude.
well, I don't know. Maybe this is the burgeoning love story for them because he immediately
Enemies
calls
to lovers.
because he calls Eragon a coward.
Oh, like Arya does?
Yeah. And Saphira takes that personally. Oddly, Eragon's cool with this. I guess Arya does it so regularly to him. He's like, this is a sign of love. Saphira, however, absolutely loses her shit.
Oh my God.
There's fire, there's roaring. It is a whole thing.
Yeah.
Eragon links up with Arya and the Dreamy Dozen. Yep. So he's connected to the 13 elite elven spellcasters and all their power going into the combat with Murtagh.
So we've leveled up from Ocean's 11 to Ocean's 12 to now Ocean's 13.
Yeah, when you have Arya in there, yeah, she's wow, that's a lot of power. Anyway,
Yeah.
first bad news situation is that in just 2 weeks, Thorn is almost already Saphira's size.
Not great.
Something else in the story is taking creatine. She's making
Hulking
gains.
dirty.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Creatine's not hulking dirty. I've been told.
This to you. Yeah. Anyway, Murtagh's also giving super intense vibes and explains that not only was he punished when he got back from the Burning Plains for letting Eragon go, but when
sense.
Gal heard about the Boogie Boys,
Oh, shit.
He killed 4 servants.
Oh, shit.
And then tortured Murtagh and Thorn some more.
Oh, that's bad.
Gotta say, I feel for Murtagh.
Yeah, he's having definitely a rough go of it.
But don't put out an Eragon. Our little bead farmer isn't a torturer. That's not his fault.
No.
Anyway.
I mean, it's not.
Kind of. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's a direct result of Eragon, but he's not intentionally doing it. Murtagh, it's important to consider someone's intentions.
Yeah, intentions matter, Murtagh. Anyway, Eragon tells his emo bro that they don't have to fight, that he knows the way to break the oaths that Murtagh and Thorn have sworn to Galbatorix. All they have to do is change.
Oh.
That's the secret.
And my dumbass always just thought it was the law of attraction.
Murtagh seems pained by this and more intense than ever swears that he'll cut off Eragon's hand
Which is crazy.
if this turns out to be a trick.
Oddly specific, Murtagh.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a lot of anger directed at Eragon here, and I don't like it. It's kind of a bummer.
Kind of a bummer.
Yeah, Murtagh's my bro.
A bit of a downer.
Yeah, and have you ever heard of Seneca or Marcus Aurelius? I think these writings could really help you through some of these challenges, Murtagh.
You think that's what Eragon's getting at?
Yeah, stoicism, bro.
Oh my God.
And that's definitely what he's getting at. And during all of this, Thorm seems to be trying to convey sadness. The emo writer somehow gets more emo with his sad dragon. Anyway, Thorn and Saphira are really doing the dog thing of sniffing each other's butts in circles. It's really sad here. Thorm seems totally like a tortured soul.
Yeah.
But that makes sense for our other tortured soul, Murtagh. Murtagh goes on
How else could the dragon have hatched for the emoist team?
That's true. They're just sad boys.
Yeah.
Murtagh goes on to say that he's not evil, that he's done his best. And when Eragon agrees, which is very nice, Murtagh uses this as his excuse. If he's already the best he can be, How can he change?
Yeah.
Must he change worse? It's funny because Eragon's like, nah, dude, you just have to change.
Just be different.
Not better or worse.
Yeah, you could just do a lateral move, my guy.
And Murtagh understandably bristles at the idea of getting a new identity. He's like, haven't they suffered enough?
Yeah.
What now? They have to like look inward and grow? Shut the fuck up, Eragon. So they didn't ask for any of this. They didn't want any of this. They're essentially slaves to fate. He goes on for a while.
Yeah.
So it's very sad, very emo. Our emo boy has reached peak emo levels.
Peak emo?
Yeah, he's come out of
How
Hot
are you
Topic
feeling?
fully decorated and stuff now.
How are you feeling at peak emo, Dane? Are we feeling like we need to let your hair down in front of your eyes a little bit?
Yeah.
Or
I start reading like, but if they were open to changing, I just start reading like that.
Yes.
Yeah. But if they're open to changing, I might direct you to Epictetus, dude. Unlock your inner freedom, some more stoicism.
you don't have to be free as long as you feel free.
It's really more true than you think. Eragon tells him to let go of his anger, and Murtagh obviously gets more angry hearing about this.
I mean, this really hit home for me. It's an absolute classic. I'm just like, welcome to being a lady, Murtagh. You just need to like calm down and not be so emotional. I'm like, dude.
It's really sad here. It's funny as hell, but it's really sad because Murtagh is completely blind to his rage. And I think...
Just like me when people tell me that. I'm like,
Yeah.
should I just calm down?
Oh, should I?
Now
Yeah.
that you've riled me up and made me angry, great.
That makes sense. I think Paulini's crushing it here. He's making Murtagh the bad guy, obviously. But he's understandable. He's not just evil.
Yes.
There's only a little evil, but understandably so. Murtagh says that they can work on it together in the capital.
I know, and I feel like that part really, really got to me for some reason. It's like he's still, in the face of all of this, like he's still hopeful that he might have some like semblance of normal life. It's like
A little bit here, yeah.
it's so sad.
So he's to bring them. He's to bring Saphira and Eragon back, and he'll probably die if he pulls another one of the burning plains moves, right?
Yeah, for sure. Gals. Well,
guess
I
he's
don't
the
know.
rider.
Yeah, all Gal wants is more riders, but I don't know if Gal thinks there's a way he could enslave Thorn somehow without Murtagh. He'd probably
do
murder
that.
one of them. Yeah, for sure.
Well, before they can fight, Murtagh says something weird. Eragon says he would sooner cut out his own heart
Yeah.
than go to Galbatorix, which, okay, Kevin, be dramatic.
Yes.
But Murtagh,
That's our boy.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Well, he's trying to out-emo the emo team.
He's not
because
doing a
the
good
last
job.
time on the Burning Plains, the emoist teen prevailed. So now Eragon's like, if I just get more emo, I stand a better chance.
Well, after all this love and all these parties, he just doesn't have it in him. He's like, I cut out my own heart.
Yeah.
And Murtagh's like, what?
Why?
Murtagh says in his response that it would be better to tear out his own hearts, plural. Weird, but this mirrors the Razak thing
Yes,
now.
something
this is the
to
second
track.
time. Lots of hearts somewhere. And the battle's on! Thorn and Saphira go at it, and Saphira instantly breaks Thorn's wings.
Yes.
We learn dragon blood burns like hot oil, which I find a super metal detail.
Yes.
But their advantage is short-lived, as Murtagh uses a little like ball to heal Thorn completely.
Yeah, that was super weird.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, and the fight is badass, and Saphira definitely seems the better fighter here. She basically has several shots to completely kill Thorn,
Yes.
even being in position to rip his wing off again at one point after
Yes,
she's already
I definitely
broken it.
can like imagine them fighting where she's like rolling around and she's like pinned, rolling around. Gotcha.
Yeah, like tap out.
Yes.
Yeah. Eragon, on the other hand, is not a match for Murtagh, it seems. Murtagh stabs him in the hip, and the blade goes
Yes.
through his wards
Dude.
and his armor, and so deep
So wild.
that he would not be able to stand if he wasn't sitting down.
Not great.
Yeah, the elves heal this too, so that they can hopefully like trick Murtagh.
Yes.
Lots of healing by the elves going on right
Yes.
now. But Eragon can't seem to close on all the advantages Saphira gives him because Kevin's gonna Kev.
Oh.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to mind magic contest.
Doesn't it always, though? I mean, in a world where we so desperately need a sword,
Yes, I mean,
does it
already-
just come down to magic in the end?
Frederick's already kind of not right. Yeah, this,
Not our bro.
Yeah,
Not our Chad.
They essentially reach an impasse. Each freezes the other with air. Murtagh holds his strength against the combined battery Eragon is drawing on for so long that two of the elves in his little group pass out. But at long last, Murtagh has to tap out himself.
Yeah.
And right at what would be the point of victory, a little bean farmer passes out. Because of course he does. And I want to note here that there's no answer for why he passes out here. I'll assume it's the magic sleepiness thing.
Yeah.
But I will get to that in the haters part because here it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, when Eragon wakes up, Murtagh is flying away, still trapped by his spell because Thorn wasn't trapped. It was just them. And he needs to let go before he and all the elves die because Murtagh's gotten really far away.
Yes.
As he does, Murtagh and Thorn throw one last insult back at Eragon, which I have to say might be warranted here because right then, Eragon remembers all of Brahm's energy in Arin. And it's a series of bad moves for Eragon all the way down. He's the weak link.
That is the most bean farmer that ever been farmed.
Yes. But my favorite part of the battle is when Eragon gives props to Saphira for kicking Thorn's ass. And she's like, yeah, I totally did kick his ass.
Totally crushed it. Thanks a lot. I am the best.
She's like, Avi.
Yeah.
And they both sit down in awkward silence of knowing that Eragon is the weak link after that. There's like a weird, like, I'm not going to say it back because it's not really true.
I do like it that it's consistent, though. Like, right from the moment they met Oramus and Glader, Oramus was like, she is ballin' outrageous. Like, she's crushing the game, like physically and as a flyer, right? She's like preternaturally talented at that.
Yes, aerial combat is her thing.
Love it.
She's and I think they say that she is like more lithe than like Glader and more lithe than like, so they're like more chunky boys. Saphira,
they're beefy boys.
They're beefy boys. Saphira is more of like a kind of like Eragon is compared to his body to Rorin.
Okay.
They're both kind of on the thinner side, you know, the lithier side. So I think
going soccer player builds, not football player builds.
Exactly, for sure. Which naturally leads Eragon to think about how Durza and Murtagh were really only beaten because of Arya and the elves. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
It's pretty true. It's pretty sad.
Yeah.
They finally get out of their head and look around at the battle. It's utter chaos, and it's not going well.
Dude.
They land near Orin and his prisoner, and King Orin has no pansy. He's no pansy. He is like, he's all beat up too.
Yeah, you know, I did actually really like reading this scene with Orin here. Like, he acquitted himself in battle because after like all the pettiness from earlier and like the kind of aggressive turn his character took with Niswada in the last episode, I'm just like, I was kind of expecting him. I think usually you end up seeing that person kind of like be a fuck up after that, but no, he like rolls out with like blood all over.
He's like doing good.
Yeah.
Same dude, same. Anyway, the soldier they have is fucked right up. Just should have been incapacitated long ago. He's pinned to the ground with an arrow through his foot, but instead of screaming, the man is laughing and doesn't seem to be a normal human. It's super spooky. Turns out all the Empire soldiers were like this, all 300 of them. And we learned that Galbatorix himself did this magic so that the soldiers feel no pain and won't stop fighting until they are completely dead.
Dude, could you imagine?
Yeah, they are like suicide soldiers who've been enticed with promises that their families will live in luxury in exchange for the services. It's super dark.
Yeah.
That'd be scary.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be scary.
I do not love it.
Yeah. I got the shivers reading this. They eventually can only kill these soldiers by cutting off their heads or like stabbing them in the heart, something like that instantly stops them. But King Orin rallies them into the Varden, saying these monstrosities can die. They just need to be decapitated, shot in the eye, go down quick. He then orders them in to put those gross laughing soldiers' heads on pikes.
Fucking
King
crazy.
Orin is mad.
Yeah, dude.
He's metal, dude. He's weird as shit, but he is metal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like hesitant to say, really telling on myself here, but like this is the most I've liked King Orin so far. I mean, like Kooky Lab Orin from
he was fun.
Eldest was fun, but this Orin could probably get it.
Oh my god!
Although, like too many of our male characters, I'm not positive on his level of hotness because it hasn't come up every few pages.
I am pretty sure in Eldest Nasawada checks him out, and he is of course a certified hottie.
Yes, but it's not the recurring bringing up of how hot all the time, so I forget.
Oh, you need reminders.
I need reminders,
in
like all of the women.
Yeah,
like every single woman in this book.
That's so fair. So the battle's over for real now. We learn that there were 300 of Gal's laughing zombie men versus over 1,000 men and Urgles from the Varden. And at the end of the morale-breaking chaos, 600 of the Varden are dead, which is
so
insane.
bad.
This is a huge loss. Murtagh and Thorn got away, and the Varden soldiers are a little spooked from the laughing freaks.
A bit.
The only thing that is good is there's a reasonable hope that Eragon and Saphira can overpower Murtagh and Thorn, especially if they join up with the elven armies eventually.
Yes.
Nasawada, who sometimes is a little dark, instantly wants her own zombie men and sets her wizards on it at once.
Oh,
she also
tough
says,
luck.
she's like, We want those. I want some of those
Oh.
creepy dudes. She also says she wants to move the armies and put Gal on the defense. So they're finally moving.
Okay.
This chapter ends with Eragon checking on his magic bodyguards, healing some of his most injured soldiers, like he walking around.
Okay.
Checking in on Brisingr Gata, which we hardly hear about anymore.
Yes.
And finally,
They're out here.
yeah, meeting with Roran and Katrina to see if they're still getting hitched today. Which is a wild turn of events.
Yeah.
Turns out they don't want to wait another second in this hellscape. And Roran is kind of a drama queen about it. Like, he wants to get married now. He's getting married. It's his day.
Yes, wild but fair, I guess. I do like the end of this chapter. He's like, in 1 hour, we'll be married.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, shit.
All right.
Okay. Let's go.
I'm getting a lot of the wall
The
situation.
wall, yes.
Yeah.
That does take us to chapter 23, man and wife. Again, I like that after Roran's like, in 1 hour's time. And then I think this chapter opens and it's like 4 hours later.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's wedding planning, baby.
Well, he doesn't just research his swords. He researched his weddings as well.
Yes, exactly. So we smash cut to the start of Roran and Katrina's wedding. Eragon suited and booted, standing atop an idyllic hill, overlooking meadows and rivers. And as a wedding planner in my real life, obviously, I can say this is a grade A ceremony venue. Get
Hell
me
yeah.
the deets on this. Add it to my vendor list. I'm really proud of Eragon here, though. The shock of the recent battle seems to be enough to cure him of his public speaking fear just in time to officiate this wedding. So that's one foe vanquished.
Yeah, nothing cures your fright of pure judgment than the fright of pure murder.
That's true. And I guess I'm a little lost now how we're going to have another book and a half in this series if he's already conquered his arch nemesis.
That's
Dane,
true.
His ultimate foe.
That is absolutely true.
Where on the hero's journey is this ultimate
he
boon?
needs to teach his emo brother stoicism.
Oh,
so
right.
a new adventure was unlocked.
Incredible. First poetry slams, now stoicism.
Yes.
Well, this whole ceremony is really beautifully described. Christopher Paolini pulled out all the stops for his fictional wedding, which I love. The entire village of Carvajal is gathered for the occasion, along with a good chunk of the Varden soldiers who are like, we need something light today. Our queen president is there with her retinue. And of course, the delegations of elves and dwarves are all there. The villagers sing their ancient wedding jams for the processional, accompanied by an elf on a harp. And as Roran and Katrina make their way up to the altar, it's truly so picturesque. Like literal doves fly from a tree to drop a flower crown on Katrina's head during the processional. I love that it was like Arya's flair for drama that added that little touch.
Yeah.
Eragon looks at her and is like, that you, girl?
She was
Arya's
like,
like, that's me.
No, she was actually, don't look at me.
No, she wants credit for that shit. Yeah. The ceremony itself is your pretty standard, old-timey, contract-style marriage stuff. Mm-hmm. But I do like the element where Roran and Katrina each need someone to speak on their behalf before the community. Like everybody's gathered and somebody negotiates essentially for each of them to make sure everybody's getting a fair bargain out of this match.
Yay.
And since neither of them have parents, which is sad, Horst ends up speaking for Roran. And I love that. And then of all people, Burgett, the woman with a death wish for the groom, speaks for Katrina.
Oh, a blood debt.
A blood debt,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, a little dicey there, but apparently Burgett was Katrina's mom's BFF, so...
And it fits the roar. It fits the Garrow aesthetic. We needed someone to bring a little bit of haunting
Grimness
to it all.
Yes, it's a lot of promises of protection from Roran and service from Katrina, which I markedly do not love.
You didn't like that?
I didn't like it. But all I can say is I guess it does serve the purpose to a certain extent of using this rite of passage to make the people of Carvajal feel somewhat grounded in a familiar, real-life-ish time and place.
Yeah.
Medieval Europe was not famously progressively feminist, so I guess that's what we get.
It didn't really pop off for you ladies for quite a while.
No?
It's all this history stuff.
When did it? Just kidding.
I'm not answering that.
Lol. So after their vows and a hand fasting ritual, Saphira gives the newlyweds a blessing and it's time to rage.
Yeah.
My favorite part of weddings.
It's like techno starts, so then I was just like, ooch,
I will
ooch,
say,
ooch.
I'm always terrified, sweating bullets throughout, the end of setup to when the guests get on site to the beginning of the ceremony. Processional is always a big deal. The ceremony obviously feels very important to me at a wedding. And as soon as that shit's over and the DJ kicks up the music. I'm like, okay, the rest of the night's going to be fine.
It's gonna be
I got
okay.
this.
We did it. Yeah.
Yes. So the beginning of this wedding feast is a receiving line where Roran and Katrina accept well wishes and gifts from all of their guests.
So cool.
Yes. Eragon's up first, and he gives the couple enchanted gold rings, which can act as like an emergency hotline to Eragon and Saphira. They'll alert the group chat if Roran or Katrina is near death, and they will allow Roran or Katrina to find their way to each other no matter the distance. So these are really fucking cool.
They're
Eragon made them
cool.
out of his last gold ball.
Weird.
I know.
It's very cool.
Yes, it's a lovely gift and sentiment, but I'm just thinking like a really good couples therapist can do the same thing. No magic involved, right?
Totally.
Find your way back to each other. Make sure no matter the distance, you can always ground yourself in your relationship.
Always find people that will support your marriage.
Yes, exactly. But maybe Carvajal has gone the Scientology route and is like anti-therapy. Who's to say? I don't know.
I love this, actually. Do you think Sloan tried his hand at writing science fiction novels before the whole Butcher thing? Like,
He's the original L. Ron Hubbard.
Yes, he's already the bad guy, right?
I don't know. I'm scared to make fun of Scientology anymore, so I have to keep it moving.
Yeah, whoops.
It certainly wasn't Garrow, though. That man had a dislike for the written word. Anyway, Eragon has some more gifts up his sleeve. He gives Snowfire to Roran, swearing Roran to care for the, quote, magnificent beast. And I'm just curious to see if Roran renames the horse for any of his grandparents or if that's exclusive to dragon riders. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
How
Snowfire.
the grandpa horse.
Snowfire is pretty cool. You don't want to like move it to like Ronald.
Well, and he'd have to pick a different grandpa because Caddock's taken.
Yeah, that's right.
So on his way back through the crowd, Eragon stops to thank Nesuada for Katrina's substantial dowry. And our queen president, savvy as ever, says that she sees the treasure she gave up as a sound investment to gain Roran's loyalty. Eragon seems a little surprised by her cold pragmatism here, but Nesuada doesn't give a fuck. Asks him to meet her to visit the wounded that evening in the hospital tent.
Remember, it is his day off still. So just clear, again, we're working on our day off.
It's an emergency situation.
It always is when work's calling.
Circumstances have changed. But the hospital tent is like brimming with men injured both in that morning skirmish with the Laughing Dead as well as those recovering from the battle on the burning plain. So we're kind of packed to the gills here.
Yeah.
And Eragon can't help but aid in the healing occasionally, despite Nesuada's warning not to tire himself doing exactly that.
Yeah.
She's like, stay alert, stay woke, bud.
Yeah.
You never know what might pop off. And he's like, well, just a little broken leg here.
Yeah.
And
okay, new theory. Eragon loves this magic pain. He's a sadomagicist.
oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Of all the puns.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I apologize to all our listeners.
He's just always trying to exhaust himself using way too much magic.
I think
That's
he likes
classic Kevin.
Yeah.
But this morale boosting visit takes a bit of a turn toward the supernatural when they happen upon a man who lost a leg, a couple of fingers, and his sight during the Battle of the Burning Plains.
All he got was this stupid shirt.
Oh no. Well, I hope he at least got a shirt. But he says that when he lost his sight, a quote, light that illuminated the flesh of the world, end quote, allowed him to see what I can only assume are the consciousnesses Eragon trained to attune himself to in his stump time. Like,
Well, they were described a little bit like that.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Even though it isn't widely known information, this man was able to perceive through this new, like, third sight that Murtagh is Eragon's brother, and he saw the stored energy in Eragon's belt as well as Arin as lights around the blaze that is Eragon and Saphira. So that was kind of interesting. I thought.
Even this guy recognized Arin right away. He's like, oh, also that ring.
Hey,
full
that
of
big
power.
ass ring. And Eragon's like, fuck.
I don't have any fingers, but I see that big one on yours. Jesus,
Eragon's like,
man.
God damn it.
Come on, Eragon.
But then this guy says something super interesting about Murtagh, and I'm just going to read it. He says, quote, the light from his soul shone through him as if it came from somewhere else. He was a void, a shape of a man. And through that shape came the brilliance that burned. Do you understand? Others illuminated him. I could feel them close at hand, raging at the world as if they hated everything in it, but their bodies were hidden from my sight. They were there and not there. I cannot explain better than that. I would not want to get any closer to those creatures, Shadeslayer. They aren't human, of that I'm sure. And they're hateful. hate. It was like the largest thunderstorm you've ever seen crammed into a tiny glass bottle.
Murtagh is the emo-est of
Dude.
boys. His soul is dark and full of hate.
Yes, and full of the hatred of others, the unhuman hate. I'm like, holy shit.
Wild.
Truly crazy.
Don't know what that means.
There's no way to know. I do, though, love this tidbit in an otherwise very like grounded and wholesome chapter. Like we just get regular run-of-the-mill wedding shit and then this.
Yeah, it's,
it
weird.
really sticks out. It's setting up a little bit of a puzzle, and the writing here is super descriptive and evocative and heightened, reminding us that while this world contains the trappings and pleasures of mortal and mundane life, mysteries and magic still abound. Like, very much in the forefront.
And of course, the most magic of all, Murtagh, obviously.
Yes, of course. In the most classic of Kevin moves, though, Eragon doesn't ask more than like 3 questions about all this from this guy before just moving on to finish up his rounds.
He's like, thanks.
Yeah.
And just walks away.
Like, dude, we need to know everything about this. But it's clearly weighing on him, and when the regular healers try to discount the soldier as a madman on Eragon's way out, Eragon replies that something funky is for sure going on, but the man is definitely sane. Like, he's not lost his marbles.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I'm glad he kind of stands up for this guy.
Yeah.
He obviously got a bad hand dealt here.
With his
Missing fingies.
missing fingies.
Yes.
I like that.
You're welcome. The chapter ends as Eragon and Saphira settle down to rest for the night, and Eragon ruminates on how many of the wounded men told him on his visit to the hospital that they fought for him. Like they were proud to have fought and been wounded in his name. And that's bleak stuff for our happy wedding chapter.
Yeah, and totally a sociopathic, you know.
Yes.
All of the highlights, all of the
Highlights
clues leading.
of just cold-blooded murderer. Well, can you turn the vibes around before the episode ends, Dane? What is next?
I will try.
Okay,
here we go. Chapter 24, Whispers in the Night.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a vibe for sure.
Yeah, we cut to Roran, and I have to say I've missed him like as like a POV, and I'm glad to be back. It feels like the right time.
Yes, it is weird. We got his whole wedding, and he's not
Nope.
the point of view character.
Roran is looking at his lady love, checking her out as they sleep.
Of course.
It's not creepy when he does it.
Well, they are married, I guess.
Here I'm picturing him finally out fan casting.
Oh.
Roran is Ryan Gosling. His shirtless arm is holding up his head. He's playing with Katrina's hair.
Oh my God.
It turns out she's actually awake.
Oh.
And instead of just staring, they talk about the stars.
I mean, it's nice. I guess if Roran's Ryan Gosling, does that make Katrina his like one of his top tier scene partners, like an Emma Stone?
Ooh,
or
she does have copper hair.
Yes, that's true.
That works. Fan casting for Katrina. Emma Stone.
Yeah. I always thought the age difference was a bit much, but
we're not going to get into
It's
that.
fine.
Katrina starts to ask. Emma Stone starts to ask.
I guess Katrina's super young, right?
She is
She's
young.
like 18.
I think she's younger than him by
She
a
is,
few
but-
years.
Yeah, by a couple.
But just a couple of years.
Yeah, he's like 20. She's like 18, maybe.
Yeah,
17.
I think so. I think she's 18.
Okay. That feels
So
right.
that feels right. Anyway,
There's no way to know,
as
unfortunately.
they're
We definitely couldn't look it up.
cut back, stars above,
Okay.
the bed disheveled. Katrina starts to ask what Rowan's plans are.
Okay.
And he's like, I don't know if you've noticed,
Hey, girl.
but there's a war.
A what?
The wall. And she expresses that she's worried about their baby.
Fair.
And says that she will leave the Varden once the baby's born.
Oh.
She goes on to say that nothing matters to her, not the riches from Nasawada, the honor the Varden gives Roran, or anything else.
Okay.
And, well, I have some feelings about that, but whatever. all that matters to her now is the baby and its safety.
Okay.
Yep, she even has her bug out destination all picked out already.
She's fucking ready, dude.
Yeah, this makes Roran, I think, understandably a little angry. She says she loves Roran so much, but they need to put the baby first, which I don't disagree with.
Yes. I mean, they definitely have, obviously, some big T trauma around separation
kidnapping,
and
horror monsters, like boogie people.
Yes, of all the people in the world to have separation anxiety, I think it is super, super, super justified with these
dead
two.
fathers.
Yeah.
Anyway, turning around, they cry a little bit.
They work through it.
Yeah, and hold each other. Roran comes around because he is the best dude.
That is correct.
And
Verifiable.
so they laugh and cry. And it's very lovely. It ends with the two of them seeing the grass ship that Arya made, because it's Arya, of course, and love.
Yes.
And the ship of love, I will call it from here on out. It's a nice little chapter, except when Roran was a little creepy staring, but that's nice.
I don't think it was creepy. If
She
it's
was
Ryan
awake.
Gosling, it's not creepy.
Yes, true.
I guess we also have the option to make Katrina Rachel McAdams. I don't know.
I like
I'm
that
a little
better.
torn.
I like Rachel McAdams better.
Okay.
Because I feel like, here's the thing. Emma Stone is very fun and funny, and I feel like Katrina doesn't really have that vibes. Katrina has more like stand up for herself, strong woman. Not that Emma Stone's not a strong woman, but I just think that Rachel McAdams can like really pull that off in a more like
She's got the
haughty
gravitas
way.
to be like, I am here to do my shit. I know what I need, and I'm going to get it.
I'm gonna
and you're
get
like,
it.
okay, girl.
Yes, she seems more Sloane adjacent.
I could... Sloane adjacent. Have you managed to insult both Emma Stone
I
and
did.
Rachel McAdams just now?
All right, well, let's get back to Tom Cruise. I always do better when we're talking about Tom Cruise.
That's correct.
How many episodes, by the way, have we brought him up?
Oof. Too many.
So many.
Well, maybe not too
We're gonna
many.
get a
We do
cease
like
and
Tom
desist.
Cruise.
He's gonna be like, stop bringing me up in your podcast.
Yes, well, I will save you from having to talk about beautiful and competent and talented actresses anymore.
Yes.
I think
they're
it's...
actors. They're all actors, Jackie.
Oh, I did not
Get
know.
with it. Wow, someone knew, didn't they?
Yes, but I do think it's a little weird. I somehow managed to miss all that creepy staring when I was looking for themes in this section.
Oh.
I have my analysis all ready to go, but I might need to rethink it a little now in light of all the staring. Maybe I can incorporate it.
Get into that?
Yeah.
Well, there's no time because we got to turn to analysis.
Yes, maybe I can work it in.
It's time for analysis.
So these chapters were just a whole ass ride this time. And we had so many iconic moments with the zombie soldiers and the wedding. But I definitely noticed a central tie-in running throughout the narrative, and that was the idea of letting go of the past. And we start off small after the numerous references to how badly Eragon needs a sword. This section kicks off with him finally fucking doing something about it. Finally. And all jokes aside about the I need a sword drinking game, I have to imagine there was something emotional holding Eragon back from replacing his weapon before this. Like, it just came up so much and he so pointedly didn't take action. Like, the amount he thought about Zarok and the scene of his reluctance to mend and take up Murtagh's blade really make the case that Eragon needed to let go of his attachment to his old sword to finally move on, take action, get a proper weapon.
Yeah.
And I think the attachment's totally understandable. For Eragon, Zarok must be wrapped up in his identity as a rider and the work he put in to become what the world needs him to be.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it's one of his last ties to Brahm. But despite all of that, our bean farmer does the pragmatic thing here and starts to let some of that go to better serve his ultimate goal. So proud of him, proud of our boy.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone's had that car they don't want to get rid of, or like,
Yes.
I don't know, the cardigan that they've worn till it's fallen apart. you
Yes, exactly. Now, on the flip side of things, Zarok's new owner gives us contrast on this theme by highlighting the consequences of being unable to let go of the past. I know you're going to get into so many other aspects of this in your deep dive, but in some ways, Murtagh's position as a villain, albeit a sympathetic one, of course, don't come for me, Dane, but his position, I know.
What are you saying about my boy?
His position as a villain in this section hinges on his fierce resistance to letting go of his past and his traumas. And even the way this section is plotted connects to the idea of letting go of the past, with basically all of our main characters and the Varden writ large ready to put the horrors of the battle behind them to immediately celebrate Roran and Katrina's wedding. So I like that jump in the plot as a way to mirror this idea that all of our characters are going through.
Yeah.
And in a way, weddings in general can be a sign. Just wait, the wedding planner is about to philosophize about weddings.
Yeah. What a surprise. What a turn this is taking.
I know. I'm nothing if not just an enigma, Dane. But I think weddings in general can be a sign that a person is letting go of their life alone to build a new one with their partner. And for me, a couple of the wedding traditions we see included here build on that idea. Roran and Katrina walking in tandem from opposite directions to join paths up to the altar. the idea, like just a hand fasting ritual that they do, the idea of negotiating the terms of what each partner will bring from their separate lives to their shared one. All of these things hint that we're marking a transition, letting go of the past to embrace the future for these two. And finally, Roran and Katrina's late night chat sees what little tension there is in this relationship get resolved when they're able to let go of their past traumas and fear of separation to do what's best for their new life and their baby. They agree at the end of the day that like it does make sense for Katrina to not have a newborn baby in a war zone.
Yeah,
proud of them for that.
Fair. Yeah, that seems fair.
Yes, but the moments with them in this section, like you said, it feels like a while since we've been with Roran, but the way he's written when we come back to him and the way the writing is between him and Katrina is so intimate. I feel like we're seeing on a micro scale what the arc of the plot in these chapters is laying out on kind of a macro scale.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you so much. Now, I want you to hold on to that feeling.
Oh, no.
And I want you to go with me, Dane, on my analysis conspiracy red string wall.
Okay, let's do it.
You're not the only one with a red string conspiracy wall.
Yes.
But I think Christopher Paolini might be trying to signal the importance of the interaction with the blind soldier by departing from this theme of letting go that's overlaying the rest of the section. So we're getting like clear ties to a through line for everything else. And then this is just like wildly out of left field.
Okay.
Where most of the chapter, like characters and major plots center on letting go, visiting the wounded is a pretty stark symbol that it's important to remember the past and its consequences. Like, that's the only thing that's going to get you to make changes or solve problems in your future.
Yes.
And I think the juxtaposition really sticks out for me here. And I think it may be a way for Christopher Paolini to highlight the information we're getting from the soldier as something really consequential, you know, by sheer contrast. He's saying, pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Something that is the fuck up with all these energies.
Something's going on.
Yes, the stuff this guy sees by, you know, taking this, you know, we're letting go, we're moving on, but in a very real way, we also need to remember what the consequences of our pasts are.
Interesting.
But I'll graciously cut myself off before I go too deep down my analysis conspiracy theory rabbit hole. I'm really not cut out for depth like you are, Dane.
Oh, God. No, that is, I totally agree. I didn't even consider the like Christopher Paolini using just two very different themes to point something out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of using the opposite.
Yeah.
Also, I cannot believe you did not take my depth baton and run with it.
Well,
cut out for depth for your deep dive.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes, cut out for depth.
You
like
laid it up, but I missed it.
You really did.
You know what we won't miss? A deep dive. Deep dive. The deep dive and what are the haters saying this time are both a little more personal to me.
Okay.
So if these two segments are a little less crunchy today, it's only because I'm loving the book so far.
Okay.
And I just want to geek out extra hard on one of the more character-driven things I love talking about.
I cannot imagine which character you'd like to bring up, Dane.
I have a feeling you could all guess who the deep dive is going to be about this week. Mm-hmm. That's right. It's our emo little warrior, Orin. It's Murtagh.
That's right. Your boy is back. You just couldn't squander an opportunity to dig in. This podcast has a reputation to uphold. And if you're not going to go hard on your emo older teen, who are you?
Who am I going to go hard for?
Yeah.
And it could have phrased that phrasing. I just want to talk about how Murtagh is probably the most well-constructed and nuanced villain in the series so far.
Yes.
I think in general, villains are almost always harder to make than heroes, especially in fantasy novels. With the good versus evil trope that this genre seems so very fond of,
yes.
Villains can easily end up being cartoonishly evil. Mm-hmm. And this is true for even very popular properties like The Forsaken and The Wheel of Time, Voldemort and Harry Potter, or even like Regal in the Farseer trilogy.
Okay.
This obviously isn't the case for every fantasy like book or science fiction book,
yes.
but it is enough so in the genre that it seems it might be an easy trap to fall into for authors.
Yeah.
For instance, so far in this book, Galbatorix seems just like your typical purely evil dude. Yes. And for that matter,
he just sucks.
Yeah, he's just a bad guy. Yeah. And it took a while for me to come around on it. But now that I see it, it's so obvious.
Now that it's there, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, honestly, so did Durza, so did the Boogie Twins.
Yeah.
This isn't a bad thing. Sometimes you just want a cut and dry
Yeah, sometimes
villain.
you just want to know who sucks and move it along.
Yeah, it works for the Bond films. It's
That's true.
Pretty cut and dry. But Murtagh, on the other hand, is just the opposite. First, we have Murtagh's childhood. which was full of physical abuse by his father, abandonment by his mother after that same father kept her away, and the loss of his parents due to one dying of sickness and the other of murder.
Yeah.
Once orphaned, Murtagh was essentially a rich prisoner of Galbatorix, and as we talked about last week, the man rules by fear and power.
Yes.
And when that insane murder wizard tried to play adoptive daddy to Murtagh ended up having to run from him becomes a fugitive of his whole country.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to follow the orders to burn down an entire village.
Yeah, that's...
Remember that?
I guess that's good on him. It's occurring to me that Murtagh does not have the same compulsion to collect daddies like Eragon does, and I really understand why.
Yes, he's like,
His first opportunity to catch one, he was like, I'd take it back out of my Pokeball. I don't want him.
Yeah, and he's disfigured by his first one. He's like, daddies are bad.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't enough, in the process of trying to escape, Galbatorix soldiers then killed the only role model and mentor that he had, his horse.
His horse, Tornak.
Yeah. And that wasn't all for Murtagh, though, because not long after being on the run, he was forced to head to the Varden, a place he knows he'll be ostracized, not because of anything he himself did, but because his father was a horrible murderer. There, he's imprisoned, and after fighting in a war to prove he isn't a threat, he's kidnapped only to be taken back to Galbatorix, and it doesn't stop there for Murtagh, though.
Dude.
Yeah, he's truly the saddest of boys.
Yeah.
Because back with Gal, he was not just imprisoned, but had the bad luck to have a dragon hatch for him, only to watch this new creature be enslaved by the same man who imprisoned him. So this dragon, this baby that really is his only family and solace in the world, is also taken by Gal. But even that isn't it for Murtagh. It doesn't stop there.
He cannot catch a break.
No, he is bound with the very being as a slave to Galbatorix along with his dragon Thorn. And just when the reality is sinking in, he learns that he has a brother. Finally, someone to bond over this horrible fate.
Yes.
Nope.
It'll be nice.
Not for sad Murtagh. His brother not only got to avoid the physical and psychological abuse of his childhood, but also was free with his own dragon to fight Gal. Not only this, but this brother could only do this because their mother loved Eragon enough to get him away from Morzan and Gal.
Yeah.
Why wasn't he loved as much as Eragon? He might think to himself, I bet. Finally, who is the new brother of his? Is it someone he hates or dislikes? Someone he doesn't know, maybe?
Yeah.
Nope, it's Eragon, the teen he helped rescue
His
and protect.
friend.
Yeah, someone he's come to care for and befriend. He doesn't even get the easy option of just hating a man.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He has to deal with the fact that this is his brother and it's someone he respects and counts as a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the light of Murtagh's anger and bitterness that fill this section, it really makes a lot of sense. Hell, even the murder of Hrothgar in the last book seems like an act of anger and frustration. Not good. Not good. Not a good outlet.
It's not great.
Yeah, but Murtagh is a man who's been forever cursed to, it's just... He's always been at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes, yeah.
And from the jump when we meet him, he's never trusted enough to be a good man, despite his many heroic and honorable actions in the early book of Eragon. And it's clear his acceptance in the Varden would always have an asterisk.
Yes.
And now he's facing the reality that he's always been seen as a villain by the group he tried to join. Mm-hmm. And he probably internalizes his villainy to a certain extent because he actively... is coming to enslave his friend and literal brother into the same bondage he himself is suffering. And the feeling that is clear here is he just wants Eragon to stop fighting so he can stop fighting.
Yes.
And even the comment he shouts in this section that Eragon wouldn't have been able to go through what he's been through and still be good is an indication that Murtagh has thought about all of this before.
Yes, he clearly is very fixated on what's happening to him, trying to work his way through it. I think you're absolutely right. It seems clear he wants Eragon to come willingly so that he doesn't have to go through at least one piece of this torture anymore. And it just reads to me so much Murtagh is exhausted.
Yeah, it seems
it's really sad.
And he rightfully, I think, rejects Eragon's desire for him to change. It's no surprise.
Yeah.
And oddly, because it's the same request everyone has been asking him to do his whole life. Oh. This is the same thing he's been going through.
Yeah.
Be different. Change. Don't be this. Don't be that.
Dude.
Yeah.
I think I'm crying. I loved your love letter to Murtagh. That's some Roran and Katrina level love right there, dude. I didn't want to interrupt. It was so nice.
I think also this is something we're about to transition to the haters. But this is something that the haters sometimes bring up, that he isn't very, even the fandom that likes the book, Murtagh is not very fleshed. But I feel like a lot of
That
this
seems wild.
It seems wild to me because I think we don't see a lot of him on screen,
Yeah.
like, from his point of view.
Yes, that's fair.
But I feel like we have a lot of information about him.
Yes,
And like,
I think he's one of those characters that you are meant to put the pieces together throughout the series. Like we keep dropping little hints. We get bits and pieces throughout about what his life's been like, what's happened to him, and then when we see him, it feels very understandable how he's gotten the way he is.
yes. And he also seems more nuanced. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, you know what's not nuanced? Hate. So now let's move to what's the haters.
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
No, there is an index in the back, right?
This is overly derivative.
Just a copycat.
This time, yet again, the haters. It's me. Hello, folks.
No.
I'm Dane Patterson, and I'm a hater.
No.
My hate mostly comes from this one place and one place only: confusion. I'm mostly just confused. What the heck happened in that fight with Eragon and Murtagh?
Yeah.
Why did Eragon pass out? And let's break down what we know of magic.
All of it? Everything we know of magic, Dane?
Buckle up!
No.
No, not all of it. But if you don't have enough energy to fuel a spell, you pass out and then die.
Okay.
If it isn't wordedly corrected, that also is a problem.
Okay.
The runaway train of energy is always one of the most prominent cautionary tales from our magic instructors. If you're linked with another person, though, you share that burden.
Okay.
If you are linked with multiple people, you share it with more people.
Yes.
And it seems like there is control of how much each person takes.
Okay.
I think that based on Eragon's draining animals and plants, he can control to a certain extent how much energy he takes.
Yeah.
Which is what Arya does at the start of this fight.
Okay.
When she gives him energy.
That's true.
She doesn't have to give it all.
Yeah.
Right?
She
could
doesn't just die.
Yeah. Or the many times that Saphira has given Eragon energy throughout the series. Again, she doesn't have to give it all or nothing. You know what I mean? She has control over how much. So why on earth would the elves or Saphira let Eragon pass out here? How is this possible?
Yeah.
Like, if you couldn't control the strain, I would understand, but it seems, as we discussed, like you can. So it seems like this is something that is conveniently just not mentioned or discussed, and in this case, it takes me out of the story a bit.
Okay.
Personally, it's not a big deal, and maybe there is something I just don't understand about the magic system and how it works. But even if I am wrong, and this should have happened, and it works perfectly like the magic system intends, it leads me to the wider world of the haters of this section, and this is where
the haters who aren't just you.
Yes, and this is where they join me. They mentioned that this battle would have been a great time to use Brom's stored energy in Arryn.
Yes.
You know, the thing that blind guy even saw.
Yes. That is a bit of a tough look at the end of the section.
Yeah, and I think if Eragon had used that, Eragon would have totally beat Murtagh, no contest here.
Yeah.
And just with the elves, Eragon had him. You know, so with Arryn, there was for sure no way they didn't get at him. So the haters point out that this was probably convenient amnesia for only story and plot reasons. And I think this is one of the few times the hater have really turned me. I agree to a certain extent. The forgetfulness in Eragon is plausible.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already gone over this. It's happened. But we did just learn about this in like a moment with Arya. So it probably stands out to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's totally, he's neglected the belt.
That's what I'm like. I think maybe it's at least well set up that he forgets about the belt sometimes or neglects to fill it up. Like he just is not appropriately tracking resources, Dane. He's not keeping a good tally of his inventory.
We make fun of him for this often. You know
I
what
know,
I mean?
but I do think it's like I guess to the haters' point that like this is just convenient for this battle and for the plot. Like we have seen it before, so I don't know that I necessarily buy that line of reasoning. Is it annoying? Yes. Or like, is it annoying about the character? Yes. But also he is a teen boy and he's like fucking terrified in a battle. So it doesn't bother me. I think it feels
I
realistic for the character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy that so much, but it's fine. I mean, it's fine with me. It doesn't pull me out to the point of like, I put the book down. I'm like, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
It seems, I don't know. It seems like this was just to give Murtagh a way out.
Yeah.
And I accept that, Paolini. But I do see their points this week. I'm in just on the magic system one because I like how the magic system works. So it's like I want to know why this was broken. You know what I mean?
Or like why. That makes sense.
Because like he could take out Arryn. Like if you had just taken out that it had power in it, this really doesn't make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't bother me.
I guess to your point about the passing out, I could see a situation again. I agree with you. It's something that just could be explained for a magic system that otherwise has a lot of strengths.
Yeah.
But I think it would make sense to me that like maybe giving energy is a controllable thing where like it being taken by a spell is the runaway train of it all, you know?
Yeah.
So like what we see from Arya and Saphira giving Eragon their energy and having a clear like stopper on when and how much.
Yeah.
All of that. I could see how maybe it's different when it comes to spells. And then I guess I just kind of picture the fight with him like being tapped into the elven spellcasters, all of them working together. I guess I kind of see in my headcanon the passing out as him like as them trying to protect him and like dialing a fine line, you know, like coming in, watching the spell take his energy like immediately in a rush, and they're just maybe a little slow to react. And when they do, they're able to revive him enough to cut it off. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
it
why
kind of
wouldn't-
happens in steps.
Yeah, but why wouldn't Saphira instantly jump in? She's not going to be in a lag. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's just, I get what you're saying. And there is, we could come up with plausible reasons. I think it's just one of those things where it just feels like you have to come up with plausible reasons. And
Yeah.
I don't think people like that. So I don't like being a hater. It feels dirty, I think, a little bit. So I'm going to stop here this week and end transitioning, like, us out of this by saying I still love this series. It's okay. It isn't perfect. No book series is, and that's all I got. That's all I got. I'm not gonna go deep on it.
No, it's
all I
okay to
got.
be a hater sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you got a little hate inside you. You gotta get it out. No, I'm
Not me. I don't have any.
yeah,
I'm
you're like, I
Jesus.
loved it. I'm Jesus. You got that, Kevin? Let's loop it and put
No.
it inside.
No. So how did you feel about this section, Dane?
I love this section. I love the Laughing Dead, not because they're cool, but because they're creepy.
Yeah.
I
think it's a good way to introduce new stakes. I think we talk about this sometimes, like 3 books into a series. It's nice sometimes to get new information, to have things change on you a little bit, to have like the amount of power grow. And
yeah. And also, like, you know, how is Galbatorix going to respond to the Urgel situation? He lost his Urgels. He's lost his Razak.
Yeah.
He's lost Durza, his Shade.
Yeah.
What does he do to respond to that?
Body
You know what I mean?
horror.
It's body horror, apparently, is what he
is
goes
the
with.
answer.
Yeah, and also, like, it shows the intelligence here. I think, like, you know, even if these guys only kill double and they all die, they're used up, the psychological toll I think this plays on the men of the Varden, your enemies,
Yeah.
I think is creepy, and it
Yes.
shows, you know, when people are defending Galbatorix, it's like, this seems evil. There's something wrong about it.
Yeah, inherently gives you
Suicide
the
bombers.
ick. Yes, absolutely. I think I liked the way it was positioned here because we see them charging in with all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good place to start to show us exactly how morale breaking something like this would be, how creepy. Like, I think
Yes.
Christopher Paolini does that in a way that feels very realistic, very like, oh shit.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also like, you know, Roran and Katrina getting married. I'm glad we tied a bow on that. At the beginning of this book, we started with like ending the revenge plotline.
Yes.
Now we've kind of ended, you know, Roran's plot line. Both of them are over from the get-go, the reason they left type of things.
Yes.
So I'm glad we're fresh. It's a freshie.
Yes, we'll
Yeah.
see where Roran takes it from here.
Yeah, how do you feel?
I'm feeling good. I mean, I, again, just don't have any hate in my heart, so
Okay. Well,
I'm not plagued by darkness.
Don't worry, Jacqui. I've hate enough for both of us. My little emo heart can only grow so big.
No, I loved it. We got the mid-season wedding. We got,
Yeah, you had a wedding. You were
yes,
good.
Yeah, what else is there, really? We got a crazy blind man. It was fun.
Love a good crazy blind
Yes.
man. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up today. Thank you for listening. Make sure to rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Support on Patreon. Check out our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Instagram. If you have any questions or just want to write us about the podcast, we would love to hear from you. And you can email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com.
Yes, and if you want to keep pace and read along with us, on the next episode, we'll be covering Chapter 25, Orders, through Chapter 30, The Laughing Dead.
Oh, no.
Body horror!
We're just two nerds and We love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.